Task D4 of behavior reduction section involves implementing differential reinforcement procedures. A differential reinforcement procedure involves reinforcing one behavior while putting another on extinction. We're going to quickly go over each of the different types of differential reinforcement. So the 5 types of differential reinforcement. The first is a differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors, where we're going to reinforce a different behavior than the target behavior. The differential reinforcement of other behaviors, where we're going to reinforce a different behavior other than the one that we are targeting. A differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior, where we are reinforcing a behavior that is incompatible with the target behavior. And differential reinforcements of the low rates of behavior and differential reinforcements of high rates of behavior, where we're trying to increase or decrease a behavior that has already been learned. One of the first types of differential reinforcement that we're going to talk about is a DRO. It's a differential reinforcement of other behavior. So this procedure is used to decrease problem behavior in which reinforcement is contingent on the absence of the problem behavior during or at specific times. So for example, if we have a child that has a high rate of stereotypy, we could use a DRO. And for that, we'll set a timer for 5 minutes. If that child doesn't have any stereotypy after the 5 minutes, the child is going to be reinforced. So what in actuality we're doing is reinforcing the absence of problem behavior. A differential reinforcement of alternative behavior, which is the DRA, is one of the most used types of differential reinforcement. It's a procedure for decreasing problem behavior and which reinforcement is delivered for a behavior that serves as a desirable alternative to the behavior targeted for reduction. So for example, reinforcing asking for a break appropriately when the behavior targeted for reduction is ripping work papers. So instead of being reinforced for ripping work papers and getting out of doing that work, we're going to target the child asking appropriately for a break instead. And we're going to reinforce that instead of ripping paper. So what we're doing is reinforcing an alternative behavior that is more appropriate than the target behavior. Differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior, which is a DRI, is a procedure for decreasing problem behavior in which reinforcement is delivered for a behavior that is topographically incompatible with the behavior targeted for reduction. So for an example, we have a child sitting in a chair that is incompatible with pacing around the room. Another example could be playing with a stress ball instead of moving and flapping your hands around. It is impossible for the child to be flapping their hands while holding onto the ball. And lastly, we have differential reinforcement of high and low rates of behavior. They're procedures used for increasing or decreasing rates of behavior that the person already has in their repertoire. So for a differential reinforcement of higher rates of reinforcement example, we have a student that is working on math problems. A teacher will reinforce the student for doing more math problems than he did yesterday. So the person will eventually be doing more and more math problems. That's higher rates of reinforcement. So a DRL example, a student stands up at their desk throughout the day. The teacher will reinforce the student for standing up less than average during that day. So the student will eventually lower their rates of behavior as the person is reinforced more for sitting at their desk more.